All right, Joshua, well, you've been around the block with minimalism for quite a while now. So what do you think is the biggest myth or misconception that maybe keeps people from investigating or pursuing minimalism?
And you mean around the block is a compliment? This is a compliment? Okay, because
yes,
I'm not used to that as a compliment. But, well, based on YouTube comments, apparently a myth is that I'm not supposed to have much hair, because those are most of the YouTube comments saying something about my hair. No, there's several. And actually, speaking of around the block, like I've been doing this for 10, 12, 13 years, and the myths have kind of changed a little bit over the years. Not supposed to use technology, and that it's stark and cold. And there's a myth, Don. I'm not even answering your question. I'm saving it for the end. There's a myth that I can't put my finger on, but I hear people say, I want to declutter my home, but I could never become a minimalist. And I don't know, I don't know what it is that they think that they would need to become, or what steps that they would need to take. I don't know why I don't know why we would purposefully own more stuff than we need. Like, why would we waste time and money on stuff that we don't need? But something that they're thinking about it makes them want to qualify that they want to declutter but not become minimalist. So maybe you could even share some insight as to what you think that means. But here's the biggest myth, or at least the biggest one that I argue against, that minimalism means that I am checking out of life. That minimalism means I'm going for 16-hour bike rides and all day long picnics, and that I'm not doing productive things with my life. And because for me, it was just the opposite. And it's probably the conversation that I argue against the most, that minimalism is actually about living a bigger, fuller life. It's about removing distractions to promote those things that are most important to you and that we're most passionate about, that we're going to find real meaning and significance and joy in. And so even when I wrote my first book, they wanted to put the more of less with a publisher. They wanted to put the plastic chairs on a beach on the cover. And I'm like, that is not what this book is about. That's not what I'm about. I'm about focusing on more important things than material possessions. And so I think that's the biggest myth, but I'll be interested to hear what
I think
what
that's
you say.
good. Well, and I'm curious, I think what you said too about where's the line where minimalism somehow goes too far, or what's missing over in minimalism that you think you still need over here, right? That I don't want to be a minimalist, but so I would be very curious. So if anyone can leave a comment too, like, what is that? Like, what's missing over here? I would love to know that as well. I do think we were talking about your fancy new background behind you, and I do think maybe some people think if you're a minimalist, you can't have decor or cute stuff out on your shelves. So I think you've arranged those beautifully.
Thank you. I'm doing this interview with you, and I have a television interview and a book coming up in April, and so a bunch more things lined up. And I'm like, I don't know. It seems like I should have something at least a little more enjoyable for people to look at. Whenever I see like videos of people in a living room that I'm like, oh, I enjoy watching them. There's something more than nothing on the back wall. So I had my wife put some things together, and thanks, because I'm very subconsciously worried about it. But
well, it is quite different than anything you've done before.
It's
so
a brand new little setup, brand new little corner in the office here. So.
All right, well, I'll share my biggest myth. I do want to circle back to your hair because you have a funny video on that we should link to. And then we do want to talk about your new book that's coming out as well. I think the biggest myth I see with minimalism is that people think that you're somehow roughing it. So it's like going tent camping, where, I mean, for those of us, maybe we grew up tent camping, there's enjoyable moments of it, and that's why people do it, and that's why you do it. But yet you're still roughing it, right? Like, it's dinner's tougher, and you don't even do laundry when you're camping. But I would say, from my experience, I think minimalism is staying at like a really nice vacation house. Again, not because we're on vacation, but because it is so easy to maintain, and then you can focus on other things that are more important to you. So Joshua, what have you done? I mean, you say you're not just living on vacation now, so what do you see that you've had more time to pursue now that your house is really simplified?
I always say faith, family, relationships, and impact. That those are the three things that have always been most important to me. And minimalism didn't change my values, but it allowed me to pursue them. I think some people, when they pursue minimalism, it forces them to rethink values and purpose, and so they might discover some new things. And certainly those things change during different seasons of life, but I've been a parent through this entire time, and so faith has always been important to me, and then focusing on family and being available for people and helping people and loving people. And then impact is just the word that I use for work, because I think all the work that we do is making an impact and should be benefiting society in some way. And so whether it's helping people own less, or starting the Hope Effect, or the new book that I've coming out, any of those things, I think I've been able to invest more time and energy into. Yeah.
So you joked before the number one comment you get on YouTube is about your hair.
Yeah, that's true.
So you haven't minimized that. You do have a really funny video with your hairdresser. I don't know, your barber.
Yeah.
And so I think we should link to that down below, because I don't know why people are so fascinated by your hair. Have you found out the answer to that either?
No, I don't know. No, I don't know. Because I'm getting kind of older and I still have a lot of it, I guess, would be the whole thing. And yes, he goes by Hairdresser. I even asked him at the beginning of the video, I'm like, what do I call you? And he's like, I like Hairdresser. He goes, it's an old school name, but that's kind of what I like. So anyway, no, it was good. Because I receive a lot of positive comments about, hey, I like your hair, but also a lot of, hey, you cut it too short, or it's too square on the sides, or you need to leave some down so it's not so straight across. And anyway, it was fun to read those to him and then get like a professional reply as to, well, that wouldn't work because this is what would happen. So it was a lot of fun. And he's a great personality anyway, so I knew he would make a good video.
Well, and probably most importantly, does your wife like it?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I wouldn't.
Okay.
Yeah, I would take it off if she didn't like it, but.
So that's all that matters.
It was good. It was fun to do. And I do.
It was fun. I'll link to that down below.
I tend to film my YouTube videos in batches around my haircuts. So, because I'll usually go like 6 to 8 weeks and it gets really long. And so I always try to film a bunch shortly after a haircut, which I just got 2 days ago. So not specifically for you, but kind of.
No, probably for the TV interview tomorrow. So tell us about your new book coming out.
Dawn, first of all, your channel's amazing. I first met you when you were like, I hope this thing works, or we're trying this new thing. And now you're like the most famous person on YouTube.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And at that time, your book, The Minimalist Home, had just come out, which is all about minimalism and still very valuable. So we will definitely link to that too. But how is this book now different?
Dawn, I have a new book. It's called Things That Matter. Here's what you said about it. Do you remember what you said about it? You said the book gives both personal and practical advice on how to face past mistakes. Joshua shares an insight from the perspective of a friend who truly cares and wants to help you move beyond regret and avoidance cycle and into purposeful living. You are so generous. Yeah. Thank you for your endorsement.
I think it's true. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Things That Matter is Things That Matter, removing distractions to pursue a more meaningful life. And it is about what I think are some of the biggest distractions that keep people from living out their purpose and their greatest potential. And so there are some internal things about fears that hold us back and past mistakes, but probably the bulk of the book is about how we just end up pursuing possessions, we end up pursuing money, we end up pursuing fame, or we end up pursuing leisure. Accolades is actually the word we use instead of fame. But I think when we end up chasing some of those things that we think are going to satisfy us, we end up really shortchanging our impact and potential in the world, of living a life that we can really look back on and be fully proud of when we reach the end of it. And so that's the basic idea behind the book. And it really takes my idea of minimalism, that I would remove my possessions so that I could focus on things that matter, and it expands it into what are some of the other things that tend to trip us up. I did a nationwide survey, Dawn. I conducted a nationwide survey to see what are some of the biggest distractions and obstacles for people. Technology is a chapter in the book as well.
Yeah. So what are the biggest things? Or do we have to read the book to find out?
Well, I listed most of them there. Obviously, I spent a lot of time focused on possessions. Personally, for me, it was possessions was what opened my eyes to this when I discovered minimalism and started owning less, and just got to the point of wondering, like, why did I buy so much stuff that I didn't need? Like, what was the unintentional pursuit, or what was the lie that I had believed that would cause me to buy a house full of things that I didn't need? And so it started with possessions, but then it quickly went into money, because there's a pretty close relation to it. If I'm not going to spend my money on possessions, then what's the purpose of my money, and what am I going to use it for, and how much money do I really need to have, and what if I am making excess? What's the use of it? In the survey, 80% of people said that they would be happier if they had more money, which didn't surprise me, that people would say that. It's pretty common. I think most of us would say, hey, do you want more money? Sure, why not? But the reality is that more money doesn't necessarily result in more happiness, at least not statistically speaking. Like, we're about one of the wealthiest nations in the history of the world, and statistically we're not any happier. We actually have more financial anxiety than a lot of people, than a lot of countries. So, like, what is like, what's happening there, and what are we hoping for money to do that it isn't actually going to provide? And
really interesting statistic. There's actually a study that when you volunteer, your increase in happiness is like getting a $50,000 per year raise. And so it was very interesting to see how we say we might want more money, like you said, your research showed, but what are we actually looking for? And that actually volunteering can give us that same increase in happiness.
Yeah, I think so. Or we've talked before, but accolades is kind of a big one for me, and attention, and I kind of like having attention and like being noticed. And when someone else has a book about minimalism that's more successful than mine, then I have a little bit of jealousy, and like where's that coming from, and like what is that pursuit isn't always very healthy. So those are just
Joshua, though, I sorry to interrupt. I've thought about this though. I'm very happy behind the scenes, so even the fact that I'm now well known for a YouTube channel is a little odd to me. But my twin sister she loves the spotlight. She's a pastor too. She would speak every day to a group of people if she had the opportunity. And I was thinking about it, I'm like, but we're all wired differently, and I don't think it's wrong, but but what are the accolades for, right? And so now like you said, you've been able to take this extra bandwidth you have and use it to start the hope effect. And so the fact now that you're also being recognized not only for minimalism, but for helping orphans and kids in need, I don't like, it's probably just what we're getting the accolades for, maybe?
Yeah, I think so. Or it's more I think the book gets into it's the idea of what is the motivation behind what I'm doing, because there are certain talents and skills and giftedness and even roles in the world that are naturally going to bring more attention. But when our goal becomes, how do I get attention? How do I get affirmation? How do I get praise for what I'm doing? Then I think we can sacrifice some things that we would be doing, not just selflessly, but maybe things that we're actually can serve a bigger role in the world. And so, the book was good. It was interesting. One of the survey questions we asked, how many people feel like they know what their purpose is in life? And 70% of people said that they know what their purpose is in life, which was actually higher than I thought it was going to be. But it's different for every person, and the book talks a little bit about how do we discover what is our purpose? How do we expand what our view might be? Not that it means I'm going to be on a stage speaking, but hey, maybe I can, be a wonderful mother, not just to my 4 or 5 kids at home, but like maybe I could mentor other moms. How do I become that person that the mom down the street calls for advice with theirs, for those who can serve in that way?
Yeah. But what would you say? I'm surprised too when you said that 70% of people know their purpose. But as I think about it more, I think a lot of us would say, well, my purpose is to be a good mom or a good grandma. But what if we know that's our purpose, but it's not actually maybe day in, day out feeling all that fulfilling to us? What's a practical step we could take here in the today now to feel like our purpose is being fulfilled and that it is bringing some level of happiness to our life as well?
Well, I think that there is just the understanding that work is difficult, that your most important work in the world isn't necessarily going to be the easiest work that there is to do in the world, and that all jobs, all careers, all pursuits, all occupations, anything that you want to do in the world, that there's going to be aspects of it that you don't necessarily like doing. But when your motivation is right, when I don't like parts of my job, but I'm making a lot of money. Well, like that runs a little shallow and it runs a little short, because you know that a whole bunch more money isn't actually going to make you that much happier. But okay, there's parts about mothering that I don't love, but I know I'm doing this for my kids and this is what's going to be best for them. And even though there's hard times, this is for the best of them, for the rest of their lives, and for their kids and for their grandkids and for their future job.
Right.
And so I think is realizing, number one, that roses have thorns, and like even the most beautiful things in the world have some prickly parts to it. Remembering that there's no perfect job and there's no perfect day.
Yeah, that's good. Well, I did thoroughly enjoy the book, and I think it's one of those I think you could read almost annually as like, am I on course? Am I gonna get to the end and look back and be satisfied and happy with what I was able to achieve and contribute, and not have any regrets? And so, Joshua, where can everyone find the book right now?
The book is available everywhere. You can find links in your description below. But it comes out April 19th, so I guess it's coming out soon, but you should be able to pre-order it anywhere and everywhere. My home base is becomingminimalist.com, and so certainly you can find all the information there as well. Man, it's so good to talk to you, Don. I feel like we've gotten to talk, once a year for the past couple years?
I think so.
We should talk.
Yeah, and I mean, I didn't mention it, but you inspired my minimalism journey with just a podcast I listened to, and you said, did you know you don't have to have all that stuff? And it was like all I needed to hear at the time.
That's
so
wonderful.
So we'll link to Joshua's book down below, along with the pre-order bonuses that go along with it. And also I'll link to those other videos down below, as well as some of Joshua's other top videos for decluttering. Joshua, one last question. Do you have any videos on getting your spouse on board? Because outside of your hair, I have to imagine that's the number 2 question that you get asked a lot.
That, and what do I do with all my kids' stuff? Certainly come up. Yes, there's some videos. Yes, you can find a video on what to do when your significant other disagrees. I'll warn people, if you're looking for the magic bullet or the magic sentence to get your husband or spouse on board, you're not going to find it in any of my videos or any of the way I approach this. I think that you need to lead by example. I think it's always easier to see everyone else's clutter than it is to see your own. And so you start on your own stuff and you lead by example. And over time, and you find the conversation that's going to resonate with him or her. And then over time, I think you'll find that they'll buy into the idea.
They come around.
Well, they don't even need to find the video.
Because it's going to disappoint you anyway.
Yeah, right.
So, if you do ever come up with that phrase, though, I think that could be a book all on its own, and it would be a bestseller.
Yeah, if I could write the book on how do I make my spouse be exactly the person I want them to be, that is the book that would be a bestseller.
Yep. Awesome. Well, always fun to get to visit with you, and we will link to all those details down below.
Oh, thanks, Don.